Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Administrator Aludo. If you don't mind, Madam President, I just wanted to kind of get the vision, and then we might have a couple questions. Last week I brought this idea. It came from a taxpayer fan, said, why can't we have a watch party in Paul Brown Stadium? I thought it was a fantastic idea. I still think it's a fantastic idea. I brought it forward, and I knew that I was told that the administration, we couldn't pull it off for the AFC championship. I'm always looking for ways in which we can keep the dollars at home or bring additional dollars at home. Coming from a background of tourism as the former deputy director of Ohio Tourism, and as someone who put together in Hamilton County at a time when our occupancy of hotels was very, very low. We had the lowest in the country. I was the vice mayor at that time, and people said, well, you got a crazy idea. I said, let's bring everybody together. We had a game at a game at Paul Brown Stadium, UC versus Ohio State. For your football fans, you remember that. We had a game, the last game at the Riverfront Stadium with the Reds. Our occupancy rate was low. People were boycotting and not coming here. And we weren't talking to each other. I called up Dean Gregory at Montgomery and said, can I get in there for a meeting? And I brought people from the arts, people from the sports, people from professional college sports. I brought people from the chamber. I said, listen, let's come together and have what I call the red hot weekend. We're going to put a whole weekend together. We're going to book all these hotel rooms. We're going to bring people downtown Cincinnati. And so they had never worked together because we had silos, and they came together, and I was at the city, and we had I think Commissioner Batum may have been around then from the county, and we came together. We had red hot weekend, brought 500,000 people to downtown Cincinnati when it was a ghost town. And we booked every single room, and everybody was happy and said, man, if we work together, we can do this. And that is what created these activations and what they call mega weekends. Now, fast forward, this idea came to me, and I've never had an idea like this come and have, so many people call it like, hey, don't do it. We can't do it. Why can't we do it? This is the Super Bowl. And yeah, we haven't been used to it. We have not been used to it. Our county, our city has not been used to it. But we invested in stadiums, the taxpayers did. They invested so that we could have teams to bring this moment. We want to win Super Bowls. We want to win World Series. We want to be on the big stage. And so we've got a great opportunity, and even a bigger opportunity now, because last week I said, we're going to win the Super Bowl, and we're going to go to the Super Bowl, and we're going now. And so we want to have something where we get a return on our investment. Now, California, they didn't invest in our stadium here, the taxpayers of California. So we go to California, we're not getting a dime out of California. So what we're looking at is, how do we do something where we give back to the fans, to the taxpayers? Yesterday was the deadline for property taxes, and people were running down here. And thanks to our commission, you got a 30% break. But the reality is, for years, you've been paying for this. So how can we now allow you to be a part of this? And so I put on my tourism hat. I put on my sales hat, because I'm always about how do we sell our county? How do we sell our city? And that's what I do. And I said, wow, we could be the unofficial Super Bowl. Okay, everybody can't afford to go to California. They sent me a package, $10,000. I ain't got no $10,000. And that didn't even get me in the game. Hotel and some parties they want me to go to. I said, wait a minute, how can we do that here? Our hotel occupancy is low because of conventions are down. They are not having conventions. We're almost at that area where we were with the Red Hot Weekend. So now we can have a whole weekend where you can have the tourism experience of our county and our city. We can put a package together that gets you here on Thursday and you leave on Monday. It's Valentine's weekend. It's people looking for something to do. So we can have people driving here. If you can't afford California, you can come here. And you can come here, you can enjoy all of the festivities that our entities are putting on, the chamber, the 3CDC, all these different activities should be going all week. and then the watch party inside the publicly funded Paul Brown Stadium. And as the administrator said, it wouldn't be everybody just a free-for-all. You would have to, register, get maybe a $5 ticket, and the money goes to the Free Store Food Bank. And then you have the tailgating outside, and then you got all of this going on. And when they cut nationally to LA, they show LA, and they cut back to us, they say, oh man, look at Cincinnati, look at Hamilton County. And so I'm supportive of this watch party. I think it's a great idea. I think it's positive. I don't think this is a negative. This is a positive. And we've been waiting 31 years. So yeah, we don't know how to do it because we've never done it. And they're comparing this. I was watching the national news, Madam President, Commissioner Driehaus, they're comparing Joe Burrow, who's from Athens, Ohio, to LeBron James from Akron, Ohio, when LeBron James won the championship in Cleveland. And in Cleveland, they was inside the arena and they were outside the arena, and they had all kind of stuff going on in Cleveland. And now we've got Joe Burrow, Heisman Trophy winner from Ohio. And I just think we have done a great job with what we have. We have a great opening day parade, but this is the Super Bowl. We've had great Doras, but this is the Super Bowl. How do we do those things, but do it on steroids? I think the parade, if it was up to me, it's not up to me, but I'm gonna put it out here from a tourism perspective. The parade should go almost all through Hamilton County. Largest parade ever, and all of the police departments can be a part of it. All the fire departments can be a part of it, because this is a county-wide and county-owned facility, and we're all a part of it. I love our coach, Coach Taylor. Madam President, when, after the game and everything, I was excited, and then I got, a little tired. I got a text at 12 midnight saying, where are you at? Coach Taylor, he's out at game time. And he's at the first, giving the ball to the first African-American bar and restaurant. And I'm like, man, and Coach Taylor not tired. How in the world I'm tired? I didn't play no game. I wasn't on the field. And what I love about them, they're getting the ball all around the county so that everybody's a part of this. So the vision is that we create this unofficial Super Bowl weekend where everybody is involved. But the big thing would be our watch party at Paul Brown Stadium. Now, let me say this. We have game days with 60,000 fans. When we played Las Vegas, we had 60,000 plus fans sold out. So everybody couldn't get in. And then I was at a local bar and restaurant, and that place was packed. In the convention business, the more people you bring, the more businesses get business. The less people you bring, the less businesses get business. So I'm hopeful that we can pull this off. I don't know, and I just want the people to know if we don't, it ain't because I didn't try. But I think we should be putting our focus more on we can do it. And just don't think so small. That's why it's called the Super Bowl. We're not doing what we already do. We do a good job with that. We should be thinking big. And I'm inspired by this Bengals team. We were, it's a why not us? They get rid of that. It is us. It is us. And Joe Burrow said, get used to this, because we going big time and we going to do big time things. And our board has been involved in trying to do some things different and do it big time. And I just hope the city and the county and everybody come together, the region. I even saw the team when they were leaving. They had some sheriffs from another county taking them out. So we got to bring all of the police and sheriff and fire from the whole region. I'm just excited about this. And I thank you, Mr. Administrator, for looking into this. I guess my question would be, we got to get a timeline of when we would make a decision, or, when will we have to make a decision? Because I know when we get out of here, everybody's going to be asking that. When would be the timeline of when you pull all the pieces together and talk to the people and all that?
So we're going to be talking to people nonstop as this goes on. So I can't give you here's when we're going to do this and here's when we're going to do that. I mean, this is something that we're going to be working on continually. And we'll be checking in each and every day on this at the end of the day to see where we are. each of the logistical items I mentioned are things that are important to pulling an event like this off. As you said, Madam Vice President, we do game days all the time. So we know the pieces that have to be put into place. It's just a matter of securing those for this specific event. So again, I think what we want to make happen is to ensure that we can have a fun, memorable, safe event for people. So that means a couple of major pillars that we have to make sure are in place. Number one, we have to make sure that there's a ticketing and access system, which we're working on right now. We have to make sure that there is adequate security staff. We have to make sure concessions are available. We have to make sure when people get in that we can that they can actually see the game, right? I mean, that's what everyone's coming in for. And so once we can get those major pillars addressed, I'm hoping that by the end of the week, we'll be in a position, and I should have mentioned, and obviously we have to get NFL approval for the party as well. But once we get all those things addressed, then I'm hoping by the end of this week, we'd be in a position at the very latest early next week where we could say to the general public, this is where you go. This is where you go for tickets. This is how you go about accessing the tickets. And this is what you can expect when you get into the stadium. So I wish I could give you a tomorrow or the next day, but we're going to be pulling these things together on a day-by-day basis just to make sure that we can host the event as I'm sure the board wants it to be hosted.
Madam President.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I just wanted to add, if we can get some kind of, some kind of timeline, because we have to know we can do it or we're not able to do it. But I do want to add that we do invest a lot of money, not just on the stadium itself, but we help with game day operations, that we help reimburse funding for that. We've put $2 million in tourism, and we got some more money set aside for possible tourism. We own the parking garages, and certainly we don't want them sitting there empty because we got debt on them. And I do want to add that we will need security no matter what. It's better to have organized events to have security than an unorganized celebration. This idea has come from the people, and the people are ready. And I just thought it'd be great to have an organized activity for the people. I know that on Sunday, people were out and they were driving, they were doing, there was no organized affair for that. And we've seen in other cities that the people don't wait for an organized thing. They coming out to celebrate whether we're organized or not. So I think this gives us a chance to be organized and be prepared. And to me, that helps safety rather than unorganized activity and everybody just do their own thing. So I just wanted to put that out there, Madam President, because we do spend a lot of investment in tourism and a lot of investment in public facilities. And I just think that's why we invest in them for times like this. We haven't done it in 31 years. I think we should act like it's been 31 years. Let's do it. So I would like to, hopefully get some kind of time of when we could have some type of, at least, answer if it can be done or if it can't be done.
Madam
And I think that would
President,
help.
I think one of the bottom lines is we have not spoken publicly about this issue, and to come to some consensus on the board of where we are with the issue. Certainly you can continue forth on what you're doing logistically, but I want to hear from everyone as far as where they are on this issue. So Commissioner Dreehouse.
Thank you, Madam President. So I too am very excited about the opportunity to celebrate the win in a couple of weeks when we win the Super Bowl. And so I have a little different perspective on this, only because I have some questions that I just don't have answers to right now. So the first thing is the collaboration with the city, with the folks on the banks, with the restaurateurs, with the CVB, the Chamber of Commerce, are very important as we, as a community, figure out how we can celebrate the Super Bowl both before and after the event and on the day of. So I'm very interested to know what else is going on, where it's happening, and how what we are doing kind of dovetails into what everybody else is doing as part of a coordinated effort. So the stadium potentially is part of that. But I think there is so much energy behind the game that I know there are many things that have been planned or are being planned. And so I do want to take some of that into account to make sure that we're working in collaboration with all the other events that are happening as a partner down on the banks. But specifically, I just have a couple questions about, and just to dig in a little bit about, Jeff, about some of the things that you mentioned. So I would be interested to know, related to cost, what we're looking at. I know there are a lot of, I used to work at the Red Stadium in food service. And I'm familiar with the vendors and what kind of effort it takes to get all that up and running. Now I know it can be done. It's just a matter of, can we do it for this? And, what is eventually the expense of that in addition to the security? Can we get security secured for the event? I know none of us want to have an event where we don't have adequate security in place for that event. So I'll be interested to know if that can be put in place. And then I'm also interested in, and we haven't talked about this at all, the interest in doing it, right? And not for us so much as for the fan base in going down to a watch party in the stadium. I too have heard from constituents, and I asked Gina Marsh, my chief of staff, to try to pull together because I wasn't keeping that close a track of them. But I've had some emails and phone calls related to this as it has been discussed publicly on some of the media stations. And from my office, I've had a few calls for this. I've had a few calls not for this. I've had some emails in both directions too. So I think the community is, some are interested in doing this and some, are more concerned about it really and the cost of putting it together, or really just disinterested perhaps. I did hear from a business owner who he runs a bar out in kind of the Dent Cleves area. And he had some concern about, and Commissioner Reece, you mentioned this, about the bars, not so much the bars downtown suffering, because obviously they will see all the people coming here. It's the bars outside the city that are concerned about not having the fans in those facilities. I just raised that because it was raised to me. I did talk to the gentleman and trying to get a better understanding of his worry about that. But to the point, I personally don't have a good gauge of interest. Given what my office has heard and given what I've heard moving around the community. So I wonder if there's a mechanism that we can put in place related to that to say, if we are going to move forward on an event that is of this scale, and as you said, it would be huge. We've never done something like this before. We do want to make sure that we're doing it and people will come. And I don't have a very clear understanding of what the level of interest is in actually participating in going down to this event. So is there a way to gauge that interest? Maybe as we think about ticketing, and I guess the Bengals would do the ticketing for the...
We are talking with the Bengals about that. I've talked with staff internally that we are preparing for either that prospect of the Bengals assisting us with the ticketing or working the ticketing through a third-party ticket vendor on our own, just depending upon what the Bengals capabilities are. We want to remain cognizant that they have some work ahead of them already in terms of selling tickets for the Super Bowl, et cetera. But we are talking with them about that. And so I think we have a couple of different plans in that regard. If they can assist us, fantastic. If not, we can go a different route.
Okay, so and I guess regardless, is there a way to gauge interest prior to the final decision being made? Because I hear you saying we're a few days out from that. Is there something like a pre-registration we could do to say to folks in the community, if you're interested in doing this and you think it's a great idea and you would go, please let us know that. Pre-register for the event. Tickets aren't yet available, but we need to gauge interest as to whether or not, is this going to be, 1,000 people or 50,000 people? I mean, these are the kinds of things we really need to know, not only for interest sake, but also security sake, vendors, all the rest of it. Because without that information, we really don't have a sense of how many people will be going down, nor do we know how to prepare for it. So I don't know if there's something like that we can do within the next, it would have to happen fairly quickly, but some way to gauge what we're looking at here and what we need to have in place, depending on the kind of crowd that's interested in going. So that is just something that I've been thinking through. I've heard from others, what kind of crowd do you anticipate? I just have no idea. And so that's something I think we should probably have some kind of sense of before we think through the amount of security and all the rest of it that needs to be in place. Those are my,
Thank you.
I mean, those are my offhand comments
Initial,
at the moment.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I heard Commissioner Dreehouse asked about cost, and I didn't hear a number. I know it's probably fluid, but.
I'm sorry, and I
Cost.
didn't provide an answer to that.
No.
So we don't have a firm cost estimate
Yeah.
for what it would cost for the watch party. I can tell you on a typical game day, costs that are paid on everything from security to cleaning to police to scoreboards, maintenance, all that, everything together typically runs between $250,000 $270,000. And that's empirical from games this year. Assuming we are not talking, and I don't know, but assuming we're talking about a population in the stadium of less than that, some of these costs are going to be highly volume based, some are not. So I would anticipate a cost less than that. I would say, anywhere from half to 2/3 of that number. But again, that some of that gets back to Commissioner Dreehouse's question about what type of crowd to expect. But I would say we would not be talking over that. Certainly, it would be something under that number.
Thank you.
Madam
And so I have several
Oh, go ahead.
comments. Yeah. So, and I also heard you earlier say that staff has been working full-time on this, which I'm a little confused about because there has not really been a consensus on where we are. And so when we talk about staff working full-time on this project, I know it didn't stop them from doing other things like rental assistance and things like that. So not for you to answer necessarily, but I think we kind of put the cart before the horse. And I'm not saying I'm not for this, but I have a couple other comments. It was brought up earlier about the playoff balls going out outside of the city of Cincinnati. And I made it very well known that Cincinnati is in Hamilton County and we need to go out and we need to go to a diverse group and they are doing it. I think Dale High, Mount Lookout, Mount Healthy. So I'm really happy to see that. Now, as far as my support of the Bengals, there's no question how much I support them. My dad spent his whole life working for the Bengals, and we've always been Bengal fans. But for some reason, the word COVID didn't come up at all in our discussion. It's like the elephant in the room. The numbers are down, and that's great. We don't know the result, as I was telling Greg about the people that were at Kansas City and when they come back and if the numbers go up. I represent all citizens, not just the ones that voted for me. Lots of people have not even been to the stadium and they see this as an opportunity to go without having to pay any money, and I understand that. The county is still in a state of emergency. COVID numbers are still too high. We're still having weekly briefings on COVID. That's not gone away. Okay, we can say, well, you're outside. I think we're looking at maybe the lounge instead of being outside, possibly. But if there's a decision to open the stadium, in my opinion, people need to show proof of vaccination or that they've tested negative. I believe that we should continue to support our small businesses, and those that don't want to be vaccinated can go to those small businesses around here or in the outskirts of Cincinnati, and hopefully they'll wear their masks. Now, I don't want to say that, and I don't want to be the one to say that the county is sponsoring an event with the numbers that we have as relates to COVID. If the NFL has a game in a stadium, that's something different. But if we're sponsoring this gathering, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. I know as we talked about the Bengals, statement came out on WLWT News. The Bengals front office said there were too many moving parts right now for them to weigh in. NFL input contracts with vendors, security, staff, and all of those dots would have to be connected very soon. I'm not saying we can't connect them. I'm not going to necessarily stand in the way, but we cannot forget that COVID is in the air. We don't want to forget it. And I'm not comfortable saying the county who said it was a state of emergency is now saying, come on, everybody, come together. Be it in a lounge you said may hold like 700 people or something, you were saying?
The club lounge, I think,
Yeah.
holds around 700, the
Okay.
East Club Lounge.
And
I
even
believe.
if we're in the stadium, so like I said, those people that maybe were in Kansas City undoubtedly would probably come to the stadium. So those are my comments. So I'm not sold on the idea. I know the taxpayers should be able to come if they choose to. I have gotten emails also about those that are against, and I'll give Leslie what I have, those that are for. So I had a little nice note on my desk when I came in about how can you not do this? And then I got a nice email about please don't do this. So I think, you know, we have the responsibility to, for me to see what's best for the people. And they will have an opportunity to celebrate. But I don't want to authorize as a county that it's okay for all these people to come together. Maybe 200 and maybe 30,000. So those are my comments, Vice President Reece.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. My position stands. I think this is a miss. If we don't do it, I think it's a missed opportunity. And I also think that the investments that we make, we're wasting the investment of the taxpayers. Well, what do I mean by that? In the report that we got from Administrator, your weekly report, it says that in March, something will come before the board for almost $8 million to put Wi-Fi in Paul Brown Stadium. That would be in March. We didn't have a petition. We didn't weigh in and say, what do the people think? They don't have to send us a petition on it. We don't have to say, I got to gauge and see, do the people want to have Wi-Fi? We didn't do that. We will be putting in Wi-Fi and some scoreboard replacements to the tune of $8 million by the taxpayers, not our individual pockets, but the taxpayers' pockets. That will be in March, just in time for after the Super Bowl. There are a number of other repairs that have to take place at Paul Brown Stadium that will be on the taxpayers' dime that will be coming forward. We will not need a petition. We will not try to gauge if the people really want to do this or not. We would have to make a decision as a board. Game day operations in the contract, the lease that I got. The contract that, there's a contract with the people's contract. In here it says we're supposed to get so many county days, so many special event days, and we haven't really instituted it. And I think those are missed opportunities. But also, we also pay for reimburse game day operations. Now, no, I don't remember anybody bringing before me or the board saying we need to get a petition. We need to get some emails. We need to gauge and see if the people want to pay for these reimbursement of game day operations. My point to all of that is to say that my comments in bringing this here is twofold. One is for the taxpayers who want to come, who want to be a part of this, who have paid for this facility, and they should be able to participate. They can't afford California, too expensive. $10,000, $6,000 to sit up at the rafters. Can't afford it. And they've been waiting a long time for a moment like this. Number two is while we have that, let's think of a way to bring some outside dollars in. We still gave Tourism Convention Visitors Bureau $2 million to do some advertising. Why advertise if we're not trying to bring people here? No need for $2 million. We got another $2 million sitting that might go to them. There's no need to advertise people coming here if we're saying that we're not going to be able to accommodate them. So I just thought this was a great idea. It didn't come from maybe the typical channels that we hear from, but it came from a fan. It came from a taxpayer. I think it's a great idea. I think that we have had experiences where we've had game days and small businesses still were open. We've sold out our stadium on game days and bars and restaurants were still around, still open. I got calls. I didn't even talk about my calls. I mean, we overloaded with calls. People wanting to book rooms, tell me when. People talking about coming from Chicago. People talking about coming from Dayton, Columbus. They're ready to, book a weekend. And I think it's a great opportunity. I've also heard from someone with the Food Truck Association, so they're getting killed out here. They want to be a part of it. Please let us know. We want to be a part of this. Security will be necessary whether we have this event or not, because there will be other activities or people will make their own activities. And so I would hope that there should be a regional conversation about security anyway. Regional. Every security group in a police department, fire department in Hamilton County should be prepared, ready to go with a plan. So I hope that they are doing that. And I did reach out to the city and the mayor. I've reached out as much as I can to folks about this issue. So I want to put that on the table. I don't want people to look like, oh my God, what's the cost? We got an $8 million responsibility getting ready to hit us in March for Wi-Fi. We've got a new capital improvements that we've got to do to that stadium. We've got these garages that we put a debt on the people and we ain't paid the garages off. I need somebody parking in them. We've got hotels that we're talking about building. I got to bring some people to town and get them in these rooms. So that's kind of where I'm coming from and what I've heard. And I want to be clear, this came from the people, and I'm sure, it's all over social media, everywhere people want to go. Now I want to be clear, everybody don't like football. Some people don't go, so they might say, I don't want it because they don't even watch football. I love basketball. Some people don't watch basketball. So you're not going to get 100% of everybody, but 100% of everybody is paying for this thing, whether they want to or not. And they just dropped some checks off to the treasurer's office because the deadline was on Monday. So this is a give back to the taxpayers. This is a give back to the fans. This is a bring money in from out of town. If you can't go to California, come here. This is a way for us to come together, and it's a positive. And don't want it to turn into a negative, because it's a positive. And I'm going to keep that positive attitude. Joe Burrow, they sacked him 9 times and he kept getting back up. That's my kind of guy. Kicked us down 9 times and he said, we still can do it. So I'm going to stay positive. I'd love to get all the facts back. And I want to thank you for putting it on the agenda today, because I know we've got a very expansive agenda. And I want to thank you, Madam President, for putting it on the agenda. And each of us have the right to say where we are. So the people watching know where we are. The taxpayers know where we are. The fans know where we are. And I'm very comfortable in my position of saying that we should move forward with a watch party. And each of the commissioners have their right to say whether or not they're for it or they're against this particular model. So I thank you for giving me the opportunity and bringing this forward, Madam President, in a short time so that everyone can at least get the information. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have any additional comments?
I do. So I just want to say that I did indicate last week that I was in favor of the administration looking into this idea. I don't think it's a bad idea. I just want to get a better understanding of whether or not people will participate and how much it's going to cost to do it, and whether or not we're going to have adequate security and vendors and all the rest of it. So I'm not saying it's a bad idea necessarily. I just want more information. And I believe I said that last week. I do want to draw a distinction though. So we are investing always, the taxpayers are investing always in the stadiums. That's been going on for 20 years. And we have an obligation through contracts to do things like, maintenance and improvements that we're obligated to do under the agreements with the Bengals. This is not one of those items. I mean, to throw a watch party is something that's outside of that. Not saying that's good or bad necessarily, but we do have obligations that we will proceed to invest in because that's what we have to do. This is something different. I think asking how much it's going to cost is a legitimate question. I just want to get a sense of how many folks will participate. I do think, there's so much going on the banks and in the Dora right outside the stadium. So again, I want to make sure that these things are all folding into each other and the energy from one plays off the energy of the other. And so I'm simply asking questions about something that we are being asked to contemplate. And I just need to get more information before I can make an educated decision on it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next item on the agenda. Let's see, need my glasses. Item 4, emergency relief.